Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the extra time for Fulham 1, Everton 3. Bit of a surprise, good result for Everton there on the road after a really disappointing home result against Ipswich. We've bounced back in the game as well, come from behind to win 3-1. You could argue a bit of a smash and grab, but no less satisfying. I think we were all caught a bit by surprise by the fact we've come away with 3 points in this one. But I'm joined by Paul. How did you feel about that one, Paul? Because I weren't expecting that at all.
No, it doesn't feel like we beat Fulham a lot the last few years since they
We
came back to the
haven't.
Premier League. Have we beat them at all under Marco Silva? Maybe once.
No,
That was supposed to.
I don't think we've beaten them at all.
Well, maybe that was the first time then. I can't recall any. And Fulham used to be one of these teams, at least at Goodison, who we used to just whip without much problems at all. But since Silva's brought them back to the Premier League, they become a really good, tidy outfit, a really, sensible team full of some really good footballers who none of them seem to be like overpaid or get above themselves. Just the complete opposite of what Everton have been for years now, where we're just an absolute cluster, aren't we? So yeah, it was an unexpected result, you're right, because was that only our second win in 10 or something really daft like that?
Yeah, there was decent Forest away. That was those two are the only ones since I think Palace in February.
Yeah, well, it takes us to, I think I'm right in saying, does it take us to 41 points?
42, I think.
42. Yeah, so it gets us above that, fabled 40-point mark. And even though 40 points is not what you need to stay up anymore, it's far less than that. I think any team that gets less than 40 points, unless you're one of the teams coming up from the Championship, I think you should be really, really embarrassed if you can't get to 40 points. And we've got that monkey off our back now. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, the first half was pretty terrible. It was everything that you don't want to see in an Everton team. We were just second in all the challenges. We just didn't seem to have any invention. Things were just bouncing off players, and we just couldn't seem to get any rhythm going. Looked like a team that had turned up just to get rolled over. But whatever Moyes said in the changing room at half time, it worked a treat, didn't it? I know you've got to get a bit of luck as well, which is what we did get with Michaelenko's goal. But there only looked like one team that was going to win it second half, and that was Everton. And if you'd have said that to us after we went 1-0 down, I'd have thought I was dreaming.
Honestly, I mean, I was really infuriated by the first half performance. I thought it was very similar, to be honest, to what we saw at Goodison last week against Ipswich. Both before we scored the first goal against Ipswich and after Ipswich scored their first, because apart from that sort of 10-minute period between us scoring our two and Ipswich's goal, I thought we were atrocious, very, very disinterested against Ipswich last week. And I thought the first half in this game was more of the same. I thought, like you say, we weren't winning any of the duels. It didn't look like we wanted it enough. Felt like
No,
we were very much on the beach, if you like.
yeah, I was going to say that it's just two teams. Well, I know there was something on it riding for Fulham, but Everton can't definitely look like they were on their holidays, and they just couldn't wait for this basically the season to end. And I get that it's too late for us to do anything in the Premier League. We've got nothing to play for except for just accumulating points, haven't we, and restoring a tiny bit of pride. But I really don't like it when players do that, especially when they've had what's overall been a disappointing season, which is what we've had when you add it all
Mhm.
together. These players shouldn't be resting on the laurels at all. I know they're mathematically safe and they've got nothing to really aspire to. It's not like we're fighting to get in the top half or we're fighting for a European place or we've got like a big cup game coming up and we're just players are trying to force their way in for that, like other teams are doing, like Crystal Palace and such and such. But yeah, I was looking at it thinking this just reinforces for me that there's a lot of these players who need to go in the summer because they just haven't got the right mentality. When if unless they really feel like they have to, they just don't turn up. They're very, very easy to just kind of go, oh, it's a bit too hard today, or I can't be bothered. I'll just shirk my duties a little bit, and that's something I was hoping David Moyes would stomp out if he gets enough time. And I still want him to do that 100%. But it was encouraging in the second half that we managed to kind of just pull our socks up, which I can't remember the last time Everton were 1-0 down at half. We're 1-0 down and we came back to winning the game.
No, I certainly can't. And I think that's something I think what we really need to see now. You mentioned there the mentality. I think Moyes needs to be bringing in players who, I mean, or even if he can shift the mentality in the current players, just get some more mental fortitude in this team because we haven't been resilient enough over the last few years to recover from going behind. Like you say, I can't recall us coming from behind to win this season so far. Am I missing any games in the last like year or so that we've come from a
I'm
deficit
sure
to
there might.
win?
I'm sure there's maybe one or two. I can't think of any that we did under Dyche in the latter stages of Dyche. Moyes had that little burst of form when he first came in, didn't he? Where we won like 4 and 5. But I've seen to remember us getting a lot of clean sheets in those games. So no, I mean it's been a problem under numerous managers for years now. The fact that when the going gets tough, Everton just don't get going. I remember it was the same under Marco Silva. It was the same under Frank Lampard. It was the same under Benitez. It was the same under Dyche for large portions of it, and it's become kind of it's crept in again under Moyes, hasn't it? And there's only so much you can blame managers for that. I think that again that just goes back to a culture that's at a club. The fact that it's so deeply rooted and it's been going on for so long that it's more than just changing the managing staff and maybe changing one or two players. You need a complete overhaul, and I think Everton is still definitely need that. But I've seen positive signs now with the new ownership and new people coming in positions of power, like a new CEO and hopefully a new chairman anytime soon. And there's one or two like famous investors from other sports who are getting places on the board, aren't they? And I imagine David Moyes is going to bring in a lot of new people, not just new players. He's going to bring in more people behind the scenes, more of his own coaches and things like that. So you're just hoping that everything's changing behind the scenes, and it is slowly but surely going to rub off on the players. It has to ultimately if you get the right people. So just getting back to the game. I was surprised about the lineup, but I think Moyes kind of had his hand force because when the lineup came out, I think everyone's heads were falling off. The fact that Michael Keane had come back into the team and Jack Addison was starting again and so on and so forth. And Ashley Young had come back on the right back. And I've always been one of Ashley Young's biggest critics, but I was relieved to see him there compared to what Nathan Patterson's been showing. But what were your thoughts on the team? Did you fear the worst?
Yeah, Bob Mac, to be honest with you. And I think O'Brien had a little injury, so that's why Keane played. Or obviously Young was, in my opinion, is an upgrade on Patterson even at his age. I think Patterson's race is run now. He has to go in summer. No, no way back for him now. I don't think. I think that Ipswich game summed it up. Harrison, I think he's been okay recently, but he's not done enough over the course of a 2 year loan period to warrant keeping hold of him. And obviously, Decore came back in for, which again, I think after his comments about him deserving the salary he's on now, I think is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I mean, the Decore thing, maybe that's a deeper discussion for another day, but considering that he kind of put his foot in his mouth the way he did, and Moyes is the type of manager who kind of doesn't suffer fools. So when players kind of speak out of turn in the press, I always remember whenever we had Belgian players who used to do it under Moyes, like your Fellaini's and your Moraleses. Moyes wasn't it, and Beckford before that. Just any player who got a bit gobby in the media, Moyes certainly wasn't afraid to give them a smack around the ear and drop them for a game, or at least publicly clap back at them. But he hasn't. He didn't do anything with Decore. So as far as we know, he hasn't said anything to Decore. So I was surprised Decore came back in, but maybe that just tells us how thin the squad is. That leaving Decore out when he's available just isn't really an option because he wasn't injured last week. He had some sort of like personal issue that I don't think was released because it must just be, again, it's private, it's his business, so fair enough. But yeah, seeing Decore come back into the team straight away was a little bit surprising, but Charlie Alcaraz, I was relieved. I think Charlie Alcaraz had what probably his best game for Everton, or at least his best game from the start. Because Alcaraz, whenever he started in the last few games, especially when he's put kind of out wide and not in his favourite number 10 position, he's been a bit hit and miss, hasn't he? But I thought this game was definitely a big plus for him, and it would have definitely, I think, made if they're still oohing and ahhing over whether to sign him permanently or not. I think that performance against Fulham, pardon me, well, it is definitely food for thought and definitely evidence to point to the fact that we probably we should sign him. So yeah, I was really impressed with Alcaraz. I'll give him his due. I mean, I still don't think we should absolutely not be giving him a new deal. But fair is fair. You've got to admit when he plays well. I think Michael Keane had a good game, regardless of his goal. I think Michael
Oh, he
Keane
was
coped
good,
well
yeah.
with the occasion. Yeah, Michael Keane coped well for once. And Jordan Pickford's was just Jordan Pickford, wasn't he? Just in the
Unbelievable.
big moments when you need him to keep you in the game, he came up trumps again. So yeah, I love his new song, by the way. Just Jordan Pickford just proving to me again why he's number in the top 2 or 3 goalkeepers in the league, and he's by far and away the best English goalkeeper, and probably one of the best goalkeepers in Europe.
Easily for me. I think for me, he's the second best in the Premier League. I think he's right up there. He's he makes saves that I don't see any other goalkeeper making at times. That one on Saturday was a prime example of that. I think he was exceptional.
Yeah,
Uh,
which the chance that we're thinking of, I think, is the same one where he got a hand to it and the ball just about bounced clear. Do you know what save that reminds me of a little bit? I don't think it was quite as good as this one, and it wasn't quite as sort of. I don't think the ball looked as close to going in as it maybe did on the TV angle that it was shown out on Match of the Day and Sky and everything. But do you remember Tim Howard's save against Southampton like 8-9 years ago, whenever that was?
oh yeah,
Like a perfect reflex save, and it just looks even better in slow motion. It reminds me of that Pickford save, the type of save where you just think, when you watch it in slow motion, you think, how's he pulled that off? How's he turned his body to that angle he has? I mean, he hurt himself as well. I think he had to get it takes a lot to get Jordan Pickford off the pitch, but when he went down after keeping that out and he was holding his arm, I thought, oh God, please tell me he
terrified.
has please. I know we're at the end of the season now, and if he did get injured and he missed the last few games, it wouldn't make a big deal. But the way that he landed, I thought, oh, he could very easily have torn something there. And if he's out for weeks and months, I mean, and he misses the start of pre-season, then that is going to be a nightmare. But thankfully it was just probably the way he landed, just a bit of a knock. I saw one, and nothing to worry about at all. But yeah, it was an absolutely amazing save, and probably up there one of the saves of the season I've seen.
I think like we'll go through the goals anyway. Obviously, the Fulham goal was a well taken goal, but it was a soft one to concede. I think the cross came in too easily, and he's one of them strikers who thrives on crosses, so you don't really want to be letting crosses come in like that. Um,
No one got tight enough to him. I think it was Garner who should have did better stopping Smith Rowe getting the cross in, and then once the ball went in, Michaelenko was a bit weak in the challenge. But to be fair, Raul Jimenez is, as you said, he's a striker who thrives on service like that, and there's not many pullbacks I don't think that would beat him going off for a header like that. You needed someone like an O'Brien or a Michael Keane or a Jared Branthwaite to be there to challenge Jimenez for that, but he just found himself in the perfect space in the box, didn't he? And it was a really good cross, to be fair, even though it should have been kept out. Garner should have put Smith Rowe under more pressure, but sometimes just goals are really good. As yeah, it's a soft one. It was avoidable, but once he gets contact with that in the box, he's going to put it in. No goalkeeper's keeping it out.
yeah,
So
no doubt
when
about that.
when we go 1-0 down, it just goes back to this. Oh my God, we're not at this today. Like the players are just turned up, half interested. Fulham have got something to play for. They're chasing a European spot. We've seen this story so many times. It just looks like this game, we're never ever going to get a grip of this game, and Fulham could very easily run away with it if they get the chances. And to be fair, I think they did have chances to run away with it. They just weren't clinical enough. And
The other one, Pickford made another brilliant save from Harry Wilson, just turned it round the post.
yeah,
Really
that was a
accurate
really
low
good one as
shot,
well. Yeah,
and he turns it round the post. That's a brilliant save as well. Made a few good saves. Obviously, Mikalenko gets us back in it with a really quite a lucky deflection, but um, I
they're the
think
type of goals that. Sorry, they're the type of goals that we always seem to concede, especially at Goodison as well. So I was really happy that for once it went the other way. I can't remember the last time again we scored a really fluky goal where you just think 99 times out of 100 that's just food and drink for the goalkeeper, that, because it wasn't even a particularly well hit shot. I mean, he got it on target, but it didn't have a lot of power behind it. He didn't get a great connection, did he? Well,
no, I don't
it
think
just
so, but
no, it was just the deflection just absolutely. So Bert Leno had no chance, did he? And he normally has a blinder against us, that goalkeeper, Bert Leno. But he always saves his game of the season when he plays Everton. So and made up for once that he didn't have a good day of it, because I said we'll come on to another goal in a minute that he should have done better for. But yeah, just for once, I was happy to see us get a really fluky goal. We just think, how on earth have we managed to put that in the net? Like, and it always tends to be players who never score as well. And as I said, it happens for us. I think that's only Michaelenko's third or fourth goal for Everton. He always tends to get really important ones, doesn't he? He got the famous one against Leicester a few years ago. He's got this one, which has got us right back in the game, and obviously led to a better performance and a better win. I'm sure he got another one last season, which was part of a win as well. So yeah, Michaelenko certainly seems to pick his moments, doesn't he?
Oh, definitely. I think he's one of the players who's really like you've seen the difference in him since Moyes has come in. I think for the most part he's been pretty solid, if not spectacular, but
He just has good runs of form and he has bad runs of form, like most players. He was absolutely outstanding the back end of last season as well. I remember he kept Mo Salah in his pocket in that derby win at Goodison, and to be fair, he kept Salah in his pocket in the derby a few weeks ago as well. I think last season he got an injury in that derby, didn't he? He played through the game and managed to play the full 90 minutes, but I think he hurt his ankle and he was out the last few games, because I remember Patterson coming into the team late last year as well. But yeah, that's just Michaelenko. He's going to have runs of form where he's one of the first names on the team sheet, where he's doing really well and he looks solid as a rock. And he's going to have games and go weeks and months at a time, maybe, where you just think, oh my God, I really wish we had another option just to take him off the team. Where if he's a starter for Everton next season, then we're not going to be the team that we want to be, ideally. So yeah, he's just a very hot and cold player, isn't he? If he was a winger or a striker, I think he'd just frustrate the living daylights out of us, because he's just so up and down. But when you're a fullback, you can kind of get away with it a bit more. You're one of the least noticeable players on the pitch a lot of the time.
yeah, and then obviously talking of players who like have bad form, Michael Keane gets what proves to be the winning goal. A bullet of a header from a really good corner, and Michael Keane. We talk on he's probably going to be going in the summer, but he might have just saved Charlie Adams' career as a set piece coach.
I mean, I hope not, because our set pieces haven't been anywhere near good enough. And that goes back to what I was saying before. I think Moyes is going to get some more staff members in the summer who are going to do a lot of the actual coaching on the training grounds. And I hope he gets a better set piece person, because I haven't really been impressed with us the last few months. Whether that's solely Charlie Adams' fault, whether that's the collective's fault, I don't know. But I would personally like us to have a different set piece coach, because we've seen how important being good at set pieces can be in this league. We saw how great it was for West Ham when Moyes was down there. They were one of the best teams in the league consistently at set pieces, and look at them. They were constantly.
So were we when Deitch was here. We were scoring a fair few set pieces. I feel like that's the
We
one
were
side.
last year. We were last year. It fell off a cliff this season, but we were really good last season, and we were really good under Ancelotti as well at set pieces. And like I was saying, Moyes, his West Ham teams were consistently great at set pieces, and they were consistently in Europe. Arsenal are one of the best teams in the league at set pieces. They don't turn the nose up at going direct sometimes, do they? So if we can be a team that can make the most of set pieces, then we'll 100% get somewhere and climb up the table sharpish. So I really hope we can do that. But yeah, just going on to Keane, as I said earlier on, when he plays well, you've got to give him his due, because we certainly don't miss the chance to slag him off when he's terrible. So I still 100% believe he should not be kept at the club, and I don't think he's going to be kept at the club. But fair play to him. He'll probably get a move somewhere fairly decent, whether that's top of the Championship, whether that's with a side that's coming up to the Premier League next year. Maybe someone just picks him up and plays him as a squad player. I don't know, but he's certainly got his uses as a player, and being a big target man in the area for set pieces is one of them. I think he's scored a headed goal for Everton, a set piece goal, in pretty much every year he's been here. I can think of 5 or 6 off the top of my head, and
Oh yeah,
I think they're all from different seasons as well, under different managers. I remember him doing it under Carlo. I remember seeing it under Dyche. I remember seeing it, I think, under Lampard. And I'm not even talking about just goals that are really good finishes, like the one against Ipswich early this season, or the one against Tottenham, that screamer at the Gladys Street. I'm talking about just really good goals when he gets on the end of a cross. Do you know what I mean? We just make sure he's always in the right place in the box. So yeah, he's got his use as a player, but it just doesn't change the fact that I still think Everton need to get a better quality of centre half if we're going to go forward. So yeah, fair play to you, Michael, but I don't think we'll be seeing you much more.
I have to agree on that. But then,
And what about Beto? He seems someone who's very, very Marmite, isn't he? I've seen people who saying
he's one of the most divisive in the squad, I'd say. But
I've seen people who say he's barely a footballer, and we absolutely need to be looking to sell him in the summer. And I've seen people who's I think there's elements of truth to both arguments, but I've also heard people say, look, when you give him a consistent run of games, he does get a fairly decent goal return. I think that goal put him on double figures for the season now. I think he's got 8 in the Premier League and he's got 10 overall. And if he starts these last 2 games, considering one of them's against Southampton as well, he could end the season on 9-10 league goals
I'll
very,
just
very
stop you
easily.
there because Southampton held Man City, so let's not write them off. I know they're like 1 point better than that Derby team, but I still see that as a colossus of a banana skin. That game, especially considering what they done to City last week, which no one was expecting.
Yeah, considering the occasion as well, considering what the fixture actually is, it's the last ever game at Goodison, and yeah, only Everton could lose their last ever game against an already relegated side. Um, that are just historically rubbish, but hopefully not. Hopefully we have a really good send off at Goodison and we get a good result next weekend. But just going back to Beto, he just as I say, he splits opinion. I've seen a lot of people who say he's not good enough. We need to look to be selling him. We need to be getting better level of player. Let's keep Calvert-Lewin over him if we're going to keep somebody. And I've seen people say the opposite, who's saying no, chase Calvert-Lewin and make Beto your front man next season, ideally, or at the very least keep him around, keep him challenging for the front man's position because you can't argue with his goal return.
I've been trying to keep him better and letting go of DCL. I think it's more that we've had a couple of years. We know Calvert Lewin's injury record's a bit dodgy. Beto, when he's been called upon, done okay. Like you say, his goal return isn't that bad when he's given a chance. I don't know whether you can rely on him for a full season. I do think you need someone else in, but I'd be keen to keep hold of him personally. I think he does offer something, and that's more than most strikers we've had in recent years have done.
Yeah, I agree. Thing about Beto, I wouldn't be against let's say like the idea of selling him if we get a good enough offer. Let's say 25 plus million. Then I think that's something we should very seriously consider because that's money we could use in other places in the squad. But I'm hearing people saying, "Oh, he's getting linked with like the likes of Leeds," and I think if we sell him to another Premier League team, especially another Premier League team who we feel we should be finishing above, whether the Leeds or one of the other promoted sides. I think if you put him in a team that's going to be fighting relegation next season, their chances of staying up go massively up
Yeah,
because
I I think that team, if you sell him to that team finishes above us, and we end up with egg on our face. Personally,
I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but I think Beto would be a very, very handy player for a team that is looking to just battle relegation and would take 17 points. Sorry, would take 17th place. Because if he can score goals in an Everton side that is just woefully short of creativity, then he could probably score goals in a team that's going to come up that just runs really, really hard and never gives up. And you don't need to score. You don't need to win many games to stay up now. I mean, look what you say, the points tally you could stay up with what 24 points this year. Is that what Leicester and Southampton, Leicester and Ipswich are both on? They both on 23.
yeah, I think the best he can boat muster is 27.
The point stands. I think Beto is definitely a very useful player for a lot certain Premier League teams, and I don't want to see us sell him and strengthen a team who could then, as you said, feasibly be looking to finish in and around where we're looking to finish. Because ideally, we want to be like well away from relegation next season and not even have to think about it at any point. That we can just look upwards and not look down. But it's not an absolute given. We could sign players in the summer who don't work out. We could retain players who just get old overnight. We could have injuries, and we have to just put stick and plasters everywhere for months on end. You don't know, so I wouldn't be looking to sell him unless we just get an offer we absolutely can't turn down. He's not one of these players where I just think, you know what, if just if someone's coming in and willing to pay his wages, then just let him go. Let him go because we've got no plans for him. We've had a lot of those players. He's not for me a Morpie or an Ashley Williams, or there's other examples as well. Players you just think, you know what, just get them out the building. They're not doing anything. they're a bad influence, or if at the very least they're just a player who the manager's got no time for. He's not going to use them. He's not going to want to have to spend any time coaching them. They're just taking up a position in the 25 squad. So let's just let them go and play some football somewhere else and not have to think about them for a year. I don't put Beto in that category. If Beto gets an offer to come in and he's really keen to go and it's a fee that suits us, then yeah, fair enough, shake his hand, wish him all the best. But that doesn't happen. I'd be saying to Beto, well, you're staying here, mate, and you're going to work your socks off next year to do what you can for Everton.
One thing I will say, Beto's got that not a lot of our squad has got at all is pace.
He's not rapid, but I get what you mean. He's a willing runner.
Everyone else we've got.
He's a willing runner, and Moyes tends to like that in his forward line, doesn't he? He wants players who work hard and run the channels, lads. That was the old phrase, wasn't it? So, and one thing I like about Beto as well, something that he's got in an abundance over the likes of, your Calvert-Lewins and your Morpays when he was here. He genuinely wants to be here. He wants to work hard. He wants to score for the team. He doesn't go out on the pitch looking like he'd rather be somewhere else, or if he doesn't get his service isn't absolutely perfect, then he'll start sulking. Which is, I think,
seems to value and respect the club, and I like that.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. Yeah, I think he realises that he'll never play for a bigger club than Everton in his career, and he's determined to make it work, and he's determined to seize every chance he gets and do his absolute best. Whereas we've had a lot of players over the last few years, you just think, you know what, you probably don't even want to get on. You look when we bring you on the pitch, you look like you don't want to be here, or if you're not getting absolute perfect service, you very quickly just go to the fringes of the game and stop going off for headers, or stop putting your foot in, or stop chasing after through balls that are sent over the top for you. So yeah, I really like Beto's attitude, and I think he's shown enough since Moyes came in to say that there's a really useful squad player there who is not unsellable, but we shouldn't be looking to push him out the door either. So yeah, good goal from him. Bert Leno probably should have saved it, but as I said earlier on, that fella normally plays out of his absolute skin. He plays against Everton, so he was due to have a bit of a howler against us, and thankfully he did it the other day. So yeah, perfect, 3-1. Not often when we win away from home and make it look comfortable. So it's just a really good day in the London sunshine, wasn't it?
Absolutely brilliant. And just one last thing on Beto there, I think that's the one thing that makes you want to keep him over Calvert-Lewin as well, is that goal he scores there. Calvert-Lewin doesn't have the balls to take that shot early the way he does.
Calvert-Lewin's never been a really good one-on-one finisher, and Beto's not a top-class finisher either. But one thing I will say about Beto is he will look to get on the ends of those through balls. Calvert-Lewin has become a back-to-goal striker. It's the way he's played. It's been moulded into him now. And that's not to say that he's lazy, but it says what I go back to what I said before. It seems like he's just a bit stuck in his ways, where if he's been coached to play a certain way so much that he's kind of forgotten how to just do what he used to do when he was a young lad. Maybe he can't do it anymore because of his injuries. That's a factor as well, admittedly. But he just can't be the type of workhorse player that we need him to be a lot of the time, where we're going to go away from home and we're not going to have the possession and we're not going to be able to have really good link-up play. Sometimes we just have to play percentage football and just chase after the long balls and just be a player who gets isolated a lot. And no striker probably enjoys that, but at the end of the day, you've got to keep working as long as you possibly can, and Beto's a player who'll do that.
Exactly. I think that's the other thing. Calvert-Lewin's now, I think he's been here a long time. Like you say, he's a bit stuck in his ways. I think it's gone a bit stale for him here now. I think it is time for him to move on. I think it's better for us and it's better for him as well to have a change of scenery, I think.
Whatever. If Calvert-Lewin's kept around, then it will be because Moyes wants him around, and I am willing to trust David Moyes, but Calvert-Lewin, yeah, if he does leave Everton, I wouldn't shed a tear. Really, I think it's as you said, it's that time where you shake his hand and you go, yeah, thanks for everything you've done, mate, but you can go now, and we won't really pay unless you're going to play against us. I'm not really going to pay attention to what you do after you leave. So, yeah, but just going back to the game, I just think there was a lot of players who started slow but really came into their own and played well. Alcaraz, Pickford was great. Michaelenko could have done. Was a bit unlucky with the goal against Jimenez, having to get there, but made up for it with his second half performance. And Michael Keane, to be fair to him, Michael Keane had one of those rare good days for Everton where he just didn't mess anything up and he got a goal on top of it. So yeah, just not really much to say. It was just a really unexpected but pleasant win, and means that we've got a very good chance now of finishing above Tottenham and Man United, which I would absolutely love. If that's what we can
Brilliant.
manage to do this season, then that's something to smile about, considering
A rare bit of
the
solace that.
spare bit
But
of dollars, considering the egos on those fan bases. So
absolutely. Finally, man of the match. I think you mentioned his name, but who would you go for?
Jordan Pickford,
Oh,
Jordan
yeah.
Pickford.
To be fair, Pickford is a shout. I was going with Alcaraz myself. I think for me, one final thought before we leave this is get him signed. Get him signed. Simple
Yeah,
as it.
again, the call's up to David Moyes, and I trust David Moyes. And I did a video with Ollie the other week where I said I don't think David Moyes is going to be inclined to sign Alcaraz because I just don't think he's versatile enough for what David Moyes tends to like in players who play up or near the top of the pitch. But that performance on Saturday won't have done his cause any harm at all. And now that Decore's come out and said what he said and made it pretty obvious that he's not going to stay, then I think that the need to sign Alcaraz now, his chances of getting signed go up exponentially. So yeah, I'd like to see Alcaraz stay here next season, and hopefully he's done enough to convince David Moyes.
I really like what I see. I like the fact that he actually tries to pass forwards and he's creative. I think it's a breath of fresh air compared to some of the stuff we've seen in recent years. So yeah, if you're listening, David Boys, get him signed up. Trigger that clause if we haven't already. Um, yeah, I would be very disappointed if Alcaraz doesn't stick around next season. I'm not saying he's going to be a game changer, but he can certainly do a job and a better job than a lot of what we've seen over the last few years. So if we're serious about like improving, then he's already an improvement to be bought right there. So just get it done.
Agreed, agreed.
We'll leave it at that anyway, guys. Let us know your opinions on the game. Let us know your man of the match. Get your comments coming in. Give this video a like and subscribe. Until next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.